This is The Cut. The Cut Podcast with Pete Ferguson. Film, music, games, entertainment. This is The Cut from Telegraph Talk.
Hello and welcome back to the weekly entertainment podcast from The Telegraph. This week in The Cut, we reveal this week's new movies, including Iron Man 2. Claudine Beaumont checked out PlayStation's new motion controller, and we take a look at the week's new singles. First though, the UK's King of Hip Hop has been talking to The Telegraph's Clive Morgan about Radio 1 and 1Extra's local hero campaign, where he's been taking time out away from the decks to help in the community.
This is The Cut.
By volunteering, you are really being a hero to those people you're helping, or whether it's your local community. Or I was in this boxing gym for like 13-year-old kids, and those volunteers there were the real, heroes to these, young kids trying to learn boxing. And the thing with the boxing, it was to give them a discipline and a focus and an interest in the sport, which was, an attempt to keep them, off the streets and keep them on doing positive stuff. I found it a very fulfilling and satisfying week. Each day, I went and experienced a different thing. We went up to a charity shop, Sue Ryder charity shop, and engaged with the people who work up there. And, what I saw there was that, a charity shop I always associated with, little old women running them. But no, there was, people fresh out of school, people who were going to college, people in their early 20s just volunteering their time to help out in the shop. The women who ran that shop were absolutely marvellous. They really gave their all to make that shop run properly and to raise money for Sue Ryder. The next day, on the Tuesday, we went and helped out cleaning the River Thames. A real nice group of people involved in doing that, and that again was a great day. Wednesday we went to a city farm. It was just a really great experience for me. I've never stroked a pig, and that just felt so, you just felt totally relaxed with nature. You've got this massive pig there just sleeping, basking in the sun. You're stroking its bristly fur, and you just feel like the world is a beautiful place. And you just felt at one with everything. And there was like these little lambs being raised. There was an orphan lamb, so you have to bottle feed it, and you held it, and it just felt really special. What came across with that day is that there was people who had volunteered to help at this farm and found their passion in life for looking after animals. And they through volunteering they found their passion in life. We went to an old people's home. I don't have much to do with like old folks of that sort of 80s and 90s. And when do you have an opportunity to talk to them? When do you have an opportunity to engage with old people like that? They were full of beans, and they had all tremendous stories, and they were great fun, and some were cheeky, and just really lovely, beautiful little old ladies, and see how they're living their life. And the thing is, we did the videos, and then the idea was, to make the videos as fun as possible. So to show that, volunteering is fun. It is not like, this earnest, serious stuff. And, to show what being a local hero was that, you are a hero to the people you help.
With national and international heroes like yourself, you are the big dog, you are the big man of hip-hop, at least in the UK, let alone around the world. So why do we need local heroes?
What I feel about myself is that my life has been so blessed. I've had so many opportunities, and I've been so fortunate. I think, there's a moral obligation that you've got to, help those who are less blessed and less fortunate, who haven't had the opportunities.
How do you think that you'll be able to keep this going?
Well, firstly, on a personal level, I want to go back to everywhere I visited, and go back there just on my own, just so experience it again. And I really hope that volunteering can be part of something we do here at Radio 1, as much as we deal with issues about, drugs and drinking and, stuff like that. If we can make it core to what we do.
The last thing I want to know is, how do you play hip-hop bingo? And did you manage to make any converts of the old people?
Right, I wasn't really interested in winning them over to be a hip-hop, but I was just up there having fun. And hip-hop bingo was just like, it was hilarious. It was hilarious. it was just like putting my own twist on those bingo numbers. So I was just calling out the various bingo numbers in my own type of flavour, and it was just a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, definitely enjoyable.
Film.
And that was Clive Morgan talking to Radio 1's Tim Westwood. Time now, though, to check out this week's new films, and Tim Roby is here in the studio. You've been checking out some films for us. Iron Man 2 is obviously the big film for this week. We'll come on to that in a second. But first of all, the UK film Disappearance of Alice Creed, rated 18. How's that?
Yeah, this isn't bad. It's kind of quite a modestly budgeted British thriller. It's about a kidnapping. Eddie Marsan and Martin Compston are these two kidnappers who bundle Gemma Arterton into the back of their van and tie her up to the bed and film her pleading for her life. Most of the movie is set in one place. It's in this flat that they've completely soundproofed and kind of decked out for the purpose of kidnapping her. And what happens is that various twists occur, which I don't want to give away, but which reveal the characters have different relationships than the ones you're kind of expecting or the ones you initially think they have. What keeps it going, what keeps it together is the performances, and also it's really quite well crafted and very well shot for a movie on this budget. The guy who shot it, I think, is really talented. He's called Philip Blaubach. There's some really kind of elegant widescreen compositions. It's quite tight, it's quite suspenseful visually, and I think it works pretty well given the limitations of the script.
So that's a UK film. On to a Austrian film now, I believe. This was originally out in Austria in 2008, I think.
Revanche. Yeah, which is the German version of the French word for revenge. Okay. Revanche. And it actually got an Oscar nomination in 2009, last year, for Best Foreign Film.
Why has it taken so long to be released in the UK?
It's just the vagaries of releasing art house movies in the UK.
Was it worth the wait?
It is. It's really quite good. It's sort of a thriller, but quite a slow burner. It's about this guy who works in Vienna. He works as the kind of the henchman for a brothel in Vienna, and he's secretly having a relationship with one of the prostitutes who works there. And he kind of hatches a plan to escape with her and rob a bank and just get out of Dodge, really. It's really well acted. The lead actor is fantastic. He reminded me a bit of Robert Carlyle. He has the same kind of like slightly wolf-like look to him. And very well shot and tense and pretty good all around.
You were right at the edge of your seat, or not quite?
Well, you are, but it's more of a kind of almost like a moral drama. It's not narratively, not that much happens, but it's full of ambiguities and kind of ironies, and what happens, again, hard to talk about because you don't want to give it away.
One of the biggest films of the year, and probably this week's biggest release, I suppose, is Iron Man 2, the long-awaited follow-up to Iron Man. You've seen it. What are your impressions?
Well, we say long-awaited. It's 2 years. It's almost sort of
feels
to the
like
week.
A long time to me.
Yeah. Well, they've thrown a whole lot of money at it. I think of the movie as it's almost too big to fail. You know, it's kind of like there's so much there. There's so many new stars in it too. You've got Mickey Rourke as this new villain.
That's what I was going to ask you.
You've got Scarlett Johansson as a new character in it called Black Widow. Don Cheadle takes over the role that Terrence Howard had.
Samuel L. Jackson
has a kind of expanded cameo. He had a tiny role at the very end of the original.
Yes, yeah.
And he comes back. The movie wobbles a bit in the middle. There's sort of, the plot doesn't quite get going enough, and you kind of feel there are almost too many elements being thrown in. But I still like the script, and I still think there's a lot of very kind of funny stuff in it, and it seems to be aware of its own kind of, almost its own expensiveness and its own kind of stupidness as a kind of big blockbuster. It's kind of, it knows that this money has been spent on it. What
made the film for me last time was the soundtrack. How's the soundtrack for Iron Man 2 this time?
Yeah, it's kind of heavy rocking stuff. It's quite
AC/DC.
Yeah, it's that sort of thing, which, you know, if that floats your boat, that's great. And I kind of got a bit sick of it, but mainly because while I was sitting there waiting for it to start, they were playing all the songs on an endless loop. So
Overkill. Yeah. All right, sounds pretty good though to me. Until next week, Tim, thank you very much. And as always, you can find the latest film reviews and news at the Telegraph website. Head to telegraph.co.uk/The Cut and just follow the links.
Music.
Still to come, we check out the new PlayStation motion controller. But first though, here's some juicy new music. Christina Aguilera's new album Bionic is expected for a worldwide release in June. But if you can't wait until then, the new single Not Myself Tonight is out now.
You just wanna know me,
Seeker's title track to the film, Kick-Ass, is his new single, and it's out this week.
We can rule the world on a silver platter, from the wrong to the right line, to the open stream, with a crash and burn. We can make it better, turn it upside down, just you and me. We have a dream, no other way to be. We are young, we are strong, we're not looking for where we belong. We're not cool, we are free, and we're running with blood on our knees.
And finally, Tayo Cruz is rumoured to have wished to work with Lady Gaga for his new track, but in the end settled to work with Keisha. Here's Dirty Picture.
I could dream of ways to see you. I could close my eyes to dream, fantasize about this with you, but the ways never seen. Oh, won't you take a picture for me? Won't you take a picture? Won't you take a picture for me? Won't you take a picture?
And as always, for the latest music and gig guides, head to telegraph.co.uk/The Cut and simply follow the links.
The Cut from telegraph.co.uk.
Now though, here's new technology critic, Claudine Beaumont. And Claudine, I see that PlayStation have released their thing called the PlayStation Move, which is a bit like a Wii motion controller, isn't it?
That's right. It's not going to be in shops until the autumn, but they gave a demo of it the other day, and it is exactly like the Nintendo Wii to all intents and purposes. It uses a motion sensing controller to control the on-screen action, and another little sort of separate B controller, a bit like the nunchuck that you use with the Nintendo, and you can play a variety of different games using that system.
Trouble is, it looks really ugly. There's this big bulbous, luminous thing at the front. It looks like a light bulb sticking out. What is that? Does that actually do anything?
I think it's basically the sensor that the camera that's mounted on top of the television picks up. I actually quite liked it. Kind of a zen-like glow as I was playing.
Does it change colour depending on what mood you're in and how well you're playing?
It changes colour depending on which controller you are, as in, if you're the blue player or the red player or the whatever player, so that you sort of can keep track of what you're doing. Which is quite a nice feature, because I always get confused about that.
And in terms of the sensitivity and how well the computer responds to your movements, how does it compare to a Wii?
Yeah, I think Sony are getting a little bit annoyed about endless comparisons with the Wii.
Which is inevitable though, isn't it?
I mean that is definitely where it takes its kind of design cues and ideas from, but to be brutally frank, the Move is kind of streets ahead of the Wii. It's a much, much more precise controller system because, of course, it's being developed with proper kind of hardcore games in mind, and it's not going to be appropriate for lining up shots and stuff if it's not sensitive enough to see where you're trying to aim. So I think they've worked really hard to try and make it as sort of precise as possible, and it tracks movement in real time. A demo that we saw last year out at E3, it showed them using it to sort of do some handwriting and also to kind of dictate the sort of swish of a sword that flew through the air. So it is very, very precise, and it can definitely pick up and track movements properly.
So the thought of actually writing with a Wii motion controller, that's just not going to happen.
No.
It's nowhere near precise.
Well, don't forget Nintendo had to bring out the little attachment that goes on the bottom of the Wiimote just to try and improve a bit more some of its accuracy for some of the future games that they were bringing in.
Wii Motion Plus.
That's the one. So, they obviously realised that it wasn't great out of the box, subsequently improved it, and, Sony takes it on even a step further. It's very, very accurate.
So you like it?
Yeah, I really did quite enjoy it. I'm not a big fan of shooting games, mainly because I can never quite get to grips with the controller. It's like too many things to think about. Aiming, firing, walking, looking, camera. It's just too much. So I'm one of those people who gives it a go and then just gives up on it. And I could actually see myself playing a lot more sort of third and first person shooters using this game system. It was much, much more sort of intuitive, lining up shots with the motion controller, and then the other controller was used to actually control your direction. So I found that a much more logical split.
And can you use it with existing games, or is it only forthcoming games?
I think it's probably only going to be forthcoming games, although the guys at the demo did make the point that it's actually pretty easy to code up those games to be to be compatible with the system. But yeah, that's potentially a bit of a problem, that you're not going to be able to play it with your sort of titles you've already splashed out on.
Is it going to seem like really old technology though when Xbox finally released the Project Natal? Yeah,
I don't know. Project Natal's had some kind of pretty mixed views from people. I pretty enjoyed using it and trying it. I don't know if I'd want to play every game that way. And I think there's definitely going to be some limits to its usefulness, but hardcore gamers are pretty sniffy about the whole thing. I think it's just a gimmick, really.
Project Natal.
Okay. Yeah. So I think already the fact that there is a controller involved somewhere along the line slightly gives PlayStation Move the advantage. I think it definitely remains to be seen how, because don't forget the Wii was obviously a completely different proposition for a totally new audience, but for the Xbox 360 gamers, PS3 gamers, a hardcore dedicated audience, I don't even know if they're really going to care about these new controller systems. I think it's actually aimed at that middle ground of people who want to make the step up from casual games but don't like the idea of maybe the control system or the D-pad, and so they want to use something that feels much more familiar and natural to them to sort of try and play those more hardcore traditional games that those consoles are known for.
And Project Natal, the PlayStation Move, and maybe a new updated Wii, probably all in the shops by Christmas, I would have thought.
Absolutely, topping the Christmas list.
There you go. All right, Claudine, thanks again. And that was Claudine Beaumont wrapping up this week's edition of The Cut. Let us know your feedback about the new PlayStation Motion Controller, or in fact anything else you've heard in The Cut this week. The email address, as always, is thecut@telegraph.co.uk. You can follow us on Facebook and twitter.com/The Cut Podcast. And don't forget, talking podcasts from The Telegraph, there's also the Formula One podcast. Simply head to iTunes to download it, or to telegraph.co.uk/F1. But that's your lot for this week. I'm taking 2 weeks off, so the next couple of weeks, Clive Morgan will be in the hot seat. But for the moment, I'm Pete Ferguson, and that was The Cut.